All right, I'm just getting things set up here. So great. Sorry it's taking so long. First time doing this, so we'll work out the kinks the next time. But welcome everybody to Wedding Trends 2025. And what I'm going to cover today is some of the things that I'm seeing trending and found and thought that might help your business and also couples as well. So the first thing is bold and eclectic color combinations. Think aqua and red and hot pink and royal blue as combinations. And what I'm seeing is red as a color is making a major comeback. So, it's just people not wanting the black and white. They don't want the teal and purple. They want something that's unique and they want something bold and that's uniquely there. So those colors have definitely stood out as far as bold and eclectic where we're headed here. Next up is focus on the feeling and experience over things. Couples want to experience, they want to feel something. So some of the things that is trending right now is relaxation lounges. So think of couches, think of chairs, it's just very calming situations. And what's interesting with this, and I'll talk about this in just a little bit, is that that's causing DJs to create vibes, not party scenarios. So, something to consider. Another thing is pre ceremony quiet room. Wow. I love this idea for couples because they're so stressed out. The wedding's about to happen, and so they have a quiet room just to come in their thoughts and just enjoy the moments with maybe particular people instead of having the whole bridal party there. Maybe it's just a select few, or maybe you're just by yourself for 15 minutes or so beforehand. And it creates that suspense too of walking down the aisle. The bridal party is separated from the groom or the bride. Then also just us first look or walk. So you're not having the bridal party out there. Maybe you're not even having the photographer out there. Maybe you're just having a first look, just enjoying the moment beforehand. You're putting traditions aside of not seeing the bride beforehand, but maybe you're just spending that moment before you get married and getting those first looks. Wedding favors a lot of wellness focused. So think of candles. I think of essential oils, scents, those sorts of things. Those are very popular favors with couples today. It's funny. We did the next one 25 years ago on our wedding, and that was a brunch or picnic. It's just a relaxed gathering for the next day. And it's not everybody at the reception. Maybe it's just immediate family. It doesn't even have to include the whole bridal party. Maybe it's just 30 people. That's about what we had, immediate family and friends that were in the wedding. Just a more relaxed atmosphere, like it says. And then finally, mindful menus. People are really focused on getting their food locally. They want it seasonal. So right now we're almost in July. Now pumpkin is not in season. So maybe you don't have pumpkin if you're getting married today. Those are more fall items on the menu. Try to think of summer. What we like to do is we'll go pick peaches down at the local orchard. So maybe you have peach flavored drinks or peach flavored desserts. You could have peach tarts. So those are in season, just something to think about. And then also mocktails. We all remember growing up getting the Roy Rogers drinks. They have the Coke or the Seven Up with the red sauce in there. We always thought that we were adults. Shirley Temples, making those special for not only the adults but for the kids as well. Next up is what's happening too. I find this interesting is splitting up or spreading out weddings. So instead of cramming everything into one big day, some couples are choosing to break up their wedding into smaller moments over several days. So it could be private vows are made the day before the ceremony, or maybe, in Vegas, you're going through the drive through or you're going to the courthouse for the justice of the peace. You're doing that beforehand. You have a casual welcome party or themed dinner earlier in the week for those maybe that are traveling, that are spending a longer period of time, that you want to spend special time with. And then also, the main wedding party is, you know, then the main wedding is with the traditional parts, the first dance. So that way you're just forgetting all of the relaxed things. You're doing that beforehand, or maybe you're doing it after. Maybe you're having your honeymoon later and then you can have your events afterwards too. And then going along with that is the wedding weekends. So small groups of family and friends, you know, it's not going to be 300 people that are going to some destination location. It's just your immediate family, maybe 25, 30 people that are there. And a growing preference for wedding long events. They include welcome parties, rehearsal dinners, day after brunches, poolside gatherings. Couples today are really into their health and wellness. So, yoga sessions, maybe it's massages. So that way it's a whole weekend, not just the big day. So, but you can't, a lot of couples can't afford for large groups. They're just having smaller groups. And going right into the next, smaller weddings. Couples are really moving away from large single day weddings in favor of intimate weddings where it's a pre and post gathering. So, like I was saying, you have the brunches afterwards, you have the dinners beforehand, and then you can also just do vowel renewals too because you've already signed the papers beforehand and said the I do's beforehand. And like I'm alluding to, micro weddings and elopements are growing strongly. Elopements, I talked to a DJ the other day that said, if I was going to spend the amount of money that couples are spending today, I would just elope. Then you'd save a ton of money, and then you know what? You can celebrate at a party at your house or whatnot. You don't have to have this lavish wedding like the Bezos had today or this past weekend. You can have those micro weddings because they definitely are trending, and elopements. So sustainability really matters to couples today. Think Evites, not only for the invitations, but for the save the dates, upcycled decor. So they're going, there's platforms out there and websites that you can buy some decor that's already been used at weddings from other wedding couples and then get those on the cheap. So you're just reusing those because why have to pay for everything brand new? Eco-friendly confetti is very popular right now. And I was thinking about this too. A huge trend is pre-owned designer dresses. You know, if you're a bride that's on a budget and you're trying to figure out you only want to spend, let's say, $600 for a dress, but a designer dress is $20,000. Well, a lot of brides today, they're reselling those dresses and they're pre-owned. But if you get that cleaned and every dress is going to have to be resized anyway, why not get a 20,000 designer dress, $20,000 designer dress for 600 or whatever that looks like? That's more budget friendly. I think that's a great tip. So gifts that grow and zero waste favors. This is really popular as far as think of succulents, think of trees. You could plant a tree those are just things that you can do out there that, that are sustainable instead of getting chocolates or whatever, things that aren't gonna last in the economy in the ecosystem. The things are going to be around 20, 30 years. Why not just get something that supports nature? Purchasing decor that can be used after the wedding. If you're owning a hall, we have a 6 foot fold up table. Maybe there's tables and chairs that you can use afterwards, or I don't see you using chair covers afterwards, but maybe there's linens that you can keep that you could give to your family members. uh, a lot of couples are donating leftover food to shelters. I think that's something that you can talk about with your caterers. Maybe there's even a pig farm as an example that can use the food. But if it's good and they can reuse it, maybe you go out and donate it on the streets as well. And then, like I already said before, food is sourced locally and in season. So the sustainability is really a big thing. We went to a Mexican restaurant last night, and one of the first pages on the menu talked about how they sourced locally. They got their fish locally from Oregon, and even though we're in Las Vegas, it was all sourced around our area, supporting the local markets. They weren't bringing that food in from China that went, Taiwan, wherever else. It was sourced in the United States. Next up is interactive game experiences going beyond the photo booth. Of course, a lot of couples want to do the photo booth. That's a given. But some of the things they're doing as live painters, and I've seen painters do watercolors. They've done the characters. There's um, there's so many different types of painters out there that are very popular right now. Also, poem creators. You can write a poem about your wedding day that's right there. And I'm sure that you could get uh, a, a performer that could say and speak the poem right there, too, as a highlight at the reception. Highly curated food stations that reflect the couple's story. So if you guys met on a Taco Tuesday, or you're celebrating Taco Tuesday, why not have Taco Tuesday as your food station? If you met at a coffee shop, maybe you have different styles of coffee that are there. And maybe you cooked each other peach cobbler. We were talking about peaches earlier. Maybe have peach cobbler station with different types of ice cream you can put on top. Having food stations that capture your love story, I think is definitely trending. And you'll notice a theme here: wellness. So, wellness inspired moments. One of the things that popped up was massage chair stations where guests can get massages. Uh, we're talking about live experiences. Definitely one of the trends that's been happening for quite a while. And I know a lot of DJs out there spin vinyl, but vinyl spinning DJs for cocktail hour and live musicians. I think that having a flamenco guitarist there during dinner would be fantastic. Maybe you got a jazz player and a drummer during the reception to add that live moments without having a full band. I love the silent discos are really popular. So maybe the bar closes at 10 p.m. where you're at, and you still want to party, then you can still have a silent disco after party. Maybe they'll keep the room open, or maybe you're going into a separate room or outside. You can still have those silent disco after parties. And as a bonus idea, a Polaroid wall or a scrapbook station. We had a family reunion once where we were taking pictures, but then we were printing out pictures from the event. So then when our family reunion was over, we gave the guest of honor a book of pictures from all of that event right there. So I think there's a lot of talented scrapbook people that are out there that you could pre-make these, and then you could give them to guests as favors, or you could give them to the couples too as a guest book. Specialized officiants and celebrant-led weddings. So we're not thinking churches with priests. We're thinking of officiants and ministers is definitely a trend, but a focus on highly personalized ceremonies that tell the couple's unique story. So it's not rigid and traditional. Say I do, read your vows. It's very personalized to that couple. And then you're incorporating meaningful rituals. We've been talking about the candle ceremony forever. You have the rope ceremony, the jumping of the broom. You have so many different rituals, but you're going to have something that's more meaningful. And then a move away from more traditional generic ceremonies. We've been saying this for a long time that the bouquet toss and the garter toss have been fading out for a long time. Even the parent dances aren't happening as much. The cake cutting isn't happening as much. So a lot of the more traditional things, I'm sure that'll come around in full circle again. But for right now, it's definitely on the outs. Integration of AI for planning, but not the ceremony. So AI has definitely a buzzword right now, and AI is becoming a hidden tool for couples and planners as well. AI generated proposal ideas. You can get smart honeymoon recommendations. And for venue industry, they're creating VR tours and they're gaining traction and in the planning phase. So if you own a venue, definitely look into the VRs because the virtual reality, a lot of the people that are growing up, they're growing up with these screens, and so you know what, might as well continue on with that. And this makes the process more efficient and personalized. And what I'm starting to see now with the smart glasses, a lot of wedding pros are putting them on at the reception. So instead, they're using them as a camera. But not only that, they're going live at the event. So you can see it's not only you have the camera, you're broadcasting that. Now you can have your glasses on that's broadcasting right from the show. So couples that want to hire you can see you live. It's crazy how we are right now. So some of the other oddball trending things that I just wanted to cover was just a few items. Butter molds. Butter molds. So when you see a butter, it could be a swan, it could be uh, acorns. Just butter molds are trending right now. As I've already alluded to, intimate versus grand productions. They would rather have their best friends there with family instead of 200 people. I'm not saying that those 200, 300 wedding receptions don't happen. They certainly, most certainly do. But you know what? The intimate over the grand is the trend. Estate weddings are a trend as well. You're going to a house, maybe they have quarters where you can sleep for the immediate family and for the couple. And then also unique venue locations. So think wineries, breweries, museums. I'm not going to say that that's a recent trend, but it's a growing trend for sure. Some of the unique stuff is ice cube art. So maybe you have flowers in your ice, edible flowers. You could have, spiders or what, whatever oddball things you want to put in your, or cool stuff too, into your ice cube art. I know a lot of whiskey drinkers or adult beverage drinkers like that. That's to accent the the experience of the drink. So it's definitely something that you could add to the experience of your reception. Unique guest books, that's been, we've been talking about this forever. Could be guitars that people are signing. There's just a multitude of things. I've even seen a benches, and then they sign the benches, and they're putting those in their on their patios of their houses. So just get as creative as you want with guest books. Vintage finds. I talked to a planner not that long ago that was talking about how she worked with a couple that went out and got all of these different coffee cups from vintage sales. So imagine, it could be the state fair from 1968. They're bringing these mugs in. Well, they met at a coffee shop, or they always dated at a coffee shop. And so now they have a mug wall of all these different mugs, and every guest, because it was an intimate wedding, everybody had their own mug to choose from the mug wall, and then they had a coffee station with their favorite flavors, and I'm sure with sugars and with different creamers. So it was kind of cool that they got all these, and it's not that expensive. They're getting these from garage sales, yard sales, and it just depends on your location. If you're in the Nashville area, some of the older neighborhoods, they always have those sales. Another, I'm talking about bold colors, but another trend is white on white palette. For me, I spill on myself all the time. It's not something that I would want, but white on white is very popular. Maybe they're taking this from the DIY shows where they have white cabinets on white floors, then white countertops. And everything's white kitchens on these DIY shows. So or these remodel shows on the home channel. So something that's definitely growing. And last but not least is artful Jello shots. So back in it's not your college days where you're going around doing shots to the LMFAO song. You're talking about Jello shots that are formed. It could be cubes, could be circles, all these different shots. So for those that want adult beverages in a fun way, artful Jello shots is a way to go, and trending. So wedding pros. Now that I've talked a lot for stuff for the couples, wanted to get into stuff for to help educate couples. That's what couples need. That's what wedding pros need to focus on. And what Zola predicted was the average wedding would be $36,000 in 2025. That's woo. Imagine that's a down payment on a house. But couples need to understand why certain costs are what they are. It's one thing to say if you're a wedding planner, I charge $5,000. Well, that is it. What am I gonna get? What am I gonna get for $5,000? So you have to educate couples. Pros need to act as experts. They need to guide couples through the process and explain the breakdown of costs and the value of their unique offerings. So if you're hiring a DJ and you're saying I'm $5,000, what are you getting out of it? You're going to showcase what's the return on investment. So 10 years from now, what's the long-term value that you're going to get from this? You're going to get a memorable experience that justifies that investment. You have the experience. You're mixing capabilities that's primarily going to be expected in the next 10 years. What are you getting out of that investment, or your fee or your cost? What are you bringing to the table? You have to educate your couples. Next up for wedding pros is price transparency. This is a big argument, I know, but I'm on the side of you need to have pricing and packages on your website. So, what do you need to do? You need to show pricing or price ranges with packages for couples to see. They want to know if you're within their budget before they invest their time. Because you know what? They only have so much time. If they're looking at a website, it's amazing what percentage. I saw a study the other day that it was a big number, like 35% in this study. They talked to about 700 couples, and 35%, if the price wasn't on their website, they would leave. And that's a third of the people. That's amazing to me. So you want, but having the prices on your website, it does. I'm going to mention four things. It attracts the ideal clients. It builds trust. It reduces ghosting because it improves that quality of lead. So, if you're on the phone with a couple and you're a DJ and your price is $3,000 and they only budgeted 500, you know what? Couples don't want to be embarrassed by that. They just won't respond to you at all because it's nowhere on there. Now I know a lot of DJs out there that'll say, "Well, I want to talk to my couples and I can convince them that I'm worth what my value." Hey, if you're in that camp, that's great. I'm just on the other camp. So what do you need to have on your website? I'm not saying that you have your this package is 5,000, this is 7,500, this is 10 grand. You can have a minimum starting price. So maybe your minimum starting price is 2,500. They may expect that 2,500, but on that phone, you're just trying to get that phone conversation. Or you could say couples usually spend between 2,500 and 5,000 with me. These are my prices. You could have tiered packages with descriptions on your site. That's highly recommended. But more importantly, explain the why. Why is the price is what it is? You have to express your expertise. Of course, it depends on industry, but the time and the materials that you're using and your unique experience, you have to give them the why of justifying why you're worth that price. If you've only been, there's a big difference between a DJ that's been DJing 6 months and a DJ that's been DJing 30 years. They have a lot of experience, and with that experience, you're going to get you should be getting a higher quality service or product with that. So, social media tips. Like I was saying, I had a survey that I was reading of 700 UK couples. 62% use Instagram for wedding inspiration, making it the top social platform. So if you're going to be on Pinterest, Facebook, TikTok, the number one platform to be on is Instagram to promote your products and your services. And not only that, TikTok is growing its influence as well. But what's decreasing? Wedding blogs and magazines are losing traction. So think of brides.com, The Knot, Wedding Wire. They're starting to lose traction because you know what? Kids today, they grew up online, on their phones, on social media. That's where their lives are. So why would I go to a website when I can do everything right from the social media platforms? It just makes sense. So posting tips for wedding pros, couples prefer real weddings. So you have to showcase what you're doing at weddings. You can provide tips for couples. Oh man, this one's so important. Behind the scenes content. Behind the scenes content. You know what? If you're a baker and all you show are wedding cakes after wedding cake after wedding cakes, that's great. But I want to see your team making the cake. I want to see them baking the cake. I want to see them decorating the cake. I want to see you doing the work. Same thing for DJs. If you're DJing, I don't want to see the crowd the whole time. I want to see you mixing. I want to see you on the mic interacting or not interacting. I want to see what your style of DJing is. You have to show yourself creating the magic along with reactions and the finished products. It can't be just the finished product. So I'm part of a lot of DJ boards. So some of the things that I've been hearing is more and more people are not dancing, so less people dancing. They're creating vibes. So especially we're in summertime now. It's beautiful outside, except in Vegas. It's 109 today. But if you're outside and you have games outside, because we're talking about interaction, maybe you have croquet out there, you have giant games of tic-tac-toe or chess, or you have the bag toss or whatever they're called where you're at. You know what? They're outside playing. You're just putting the vibe. You're just playing the music. As long as they're vibing outside, you've done your job. Yacht rock is trending right now, so a lot of yacht rock is popular. But just keep in mind that it's more of a vibe than it is. It's kind of like a beach vibe than it is for dancing. You know, a lot of yacht rock I would consider cocktail hour music. And then what are couples doing? The economy is uncertain. There's a lot of layoffs going on. There's people getting hired for sure, but a lot of couples are unsure about their future, so they're taking more and more time to book. So what's happening is more time to book means they're booking less. They're booking in the last 120 days before the wedding. And we're not talking of DJs, we're not talking planners, we're talking big ones like reserving the venue, reserving their photographers. So, it's one of those things where they're taking more time to book leading up to the wedding. And you know what? There's a lot more competition now and fewer weddings. A lot of, like we're saying, people are eloping. They're the more intimate. Maybe the intimate weddings, they're not hiring all of the vendors, that they're limiting them. Maybe they're doing, instead of hiring a catering, they're doing potluck. So, like I said, just more competition, fewer weddings. That's definitely what I'm seeing across the board. I'm going to share these slides in the comments, but here's the sources of some of the things, and definitely personal, from the bride, from the engaged couples Facebook groups to a lot of the groups that I'm a part of. It's just some of the things, but also what I found online, and helping couples and wedding pros plan their playlists. Make sure you sign up for the wedding music letter. That would be fantastic. If you guys want to join, that would be great at weddingmusicletter.com. That's the main sponsor and my brand. If you want to listen to our podcast, it's the Wedding Songs Podcast. And then also our website is myweddingsongs.com. If you guys have any questions afterwards, you can go ahead and put them down in the comments. That's much appreciated. I haven't been able to look at the comments now. I might jump back in there, but let's see if I can actually see that. I can't. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I'm going to hop into the comments here just to see if there's anything there. I don't see anything in the chat, but I will go ahead. Oh, there's 5 watching. Woohoo! Thanks for the 5 watching. Anyway, 37 minutes. So if you guys have any comments, you could just throw into the chat. That would be great. Otherwise, I'll answer any comments as we go moving forward with the wedding trends. So I'll just hold off for a couple of minutes here, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, you guys have a good evening or day wherever you're located. I know John's out there from Australia, and a couple of local people here too. So thanks for watching, and I'll try to do some more live shows in the future. All right.